Hello everyone. So we are here again with an exciting topic of discussion. Today's topic is the India's foreign policy doctrine, and our focus will be on Russia. Our distinguished speaker today is Dr. Adityanjee. He is the President of Council for Strategic Affairs. You can visit his website, the Council for Strategic Affairs.org, to learn more about his organization. Coming to the topic, the relationship between India and Russia is characterized by a historic alliance and strategic cooperation. Opportunities lie in strong ties in defense, nuclear cooperation, and shared interest in multipolarity, offering potential for collaboration in areas like energy and technology. However, there are challenges too. Challenges include the need to diversify and modernize economic dimensions beyond defense and navigating geopolitical complexity. Balancing these ties is crucial for ensuring the resilience and relevance of this long-standing partnership in the dynamic global landscape. Diplomatic efforts are key to addressing challenges and fostering a mutually beneficial and evolving relationship between India and Russia. So this is our relation today with Russia, Dr. Adityanjee. So with this background, I am coming to my first questions related to Russia. What is your current assessment of India-Russia relationship currently? As India continues to enhance engagement with America, what do you think is Russia's attitude towards India?
So, Russia has been a good friend, especially when during Cold War, United States had taken very much antagonistic attitude towards India. It was the predecessor state of Soviet Union that came to India's rescue several times in United Nations Security Council on veto. We also had this friendship treaty with Soviet Union initially signed for 25 years prior to the Bangladesh war.
Yeah.
So it had supported India during crucial times and was the main supplier of defense equipment and armament to India.
Yes.
It appeared that the relationship was great, but there were some irritants even at that point in time. And irritants from a historical perspective. Those issues may not have been perceived as irritants by the government of India at that point. So if you read the declassified account of McToken archives,
Right, sir.
you will find that KGB was funding India's ruling party. KGB was giving funds for elections to Congress party and was bribing certain politicians and also propping up the communist parties and allied organizations.
Yeah.
It may not have been perceived as a problem by the then government of India, but from a historical point of view, that was a problem. After the breakup of Soviet Union, we had problems with Russian Federation that was led by Boris Yeltsin for a period of time. Because as a successor state, they had inherited quite a lot of Indian rupees because we had this rupee-ruble trade mechanism. And that was misused by Russian Federation because they would artificially peg a very high conversion rate for ruble that had actually fallen down in international market. It did not have the value. So it was artificially kept inflated by Russian Federation. That was a major problem. We may not have said much about it. Boris Yeltsin's successor, Vladimir Putin, some of the issues were ironed out, but we again need to keep the background. They said that you could buy Admiral Gorshakov, the current aircraft carrier INS Vikramaditya, for rupee 1. How much money they took from us? Over a period of time, there were a lot of cost overruns. There were delayed schedules.
Yeah.
And pretty much India was held to ransom because we had invested so much of money. Ultimately, I think it came to more than $2.5 billion US dollars. So Russia demanded its pound of flesh whenever it could. I'll give you another example. There were 3 Latvian nationals who dropped arms in West Bengal in Purulia.
Yeah.
Apparently for insurgency or by terrorist groups, whether that was, Anandamargis or whatever, but there was a very infamous Purulia arm drop.
Yeah. Right.
There was a British pilot also, Navy or something like that, and there were 3 Latvian nationals. These were ethnic Russians, and they were in prison. Vladimir Putin pressurized then government of India, which was headed by Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And I'm not being partisan because I criticize Congress party. They put pressure on government of India at that point in time to release these Latvian nationals from Indian prisons. And what they did, Russia granted them Russian citizenship while they were in prison and forced India to release them unconditionally before Putin will agree to come and visit India. It did happen. So I am telling you that the feeling we get that your relationship with Russia is hunky-dory is not true. If you have carefully observed, Russia has demanded its pound of flesh, knowing India's vulnerability. And Russia is miffed at this point in time that from 90%, Russia's trade of export to India of defense equipment has gone down to 45%, or 90%. And it will continue to go down because India is becoming self-reliant under Atmanirbhar Bharat. And India will continue to procure, equipment from domestic public-private partnerships and domestic manufacturing company rather than buy from Russia. Russia also had a problem when we were, there were success stories of BrahMos, no doubt about it. But they are failures of 5G, 5th generation fighter aircraft. India sank a lot of money into joint production of 5th generation of aircraft in Russia as a joint co-production, just like Chinese and Pakistani were co-producing J-15 or J-16 fighter aircraft. Russia took all the money but refused to share the details, plans, etc. for extended period of time. And India was forced to scrap that collaboration with Russia. Money that was sunk was sunk. So again, I am highlighting that each nation stands for its own when it comes to the national interest. And Russia has not been a saint as far as that is concerned. Yes, we have a relatively good relationship. Especially, we should be grateful to former Soviet Union to come to our assistance in 1971. But that is history. History does not guide the present. What is happening at the present is that even prior to Ukraine war, Russia was showing certain tempers. I actually coined an acronym. I coined an acronym for a quad called PRIC. PRIC. When India became active in Quad, Russia started maneuvering, and something of a Quad of a different nature started to form. Quick stands for Pakistan, Russia, Iran, and China.
Yeah.
And in fact, while there were deliberations on Afghanistan, future of Afghanistan before Taliban took over, there were meetings held in Russia in which Russia refused to invite India at Pakistan's, exhortation. Russia also agreed to sell defense equipment to Pakistan, agreed to invest in a gas pipeline in Pakistan, and wanted to take relationship with Pakistan to a different level. So there are complex games being played. Each country is playing those games. It's not just Russia's relationship with China that is of concern. It's Russia using the Pakistan card whenever it suits it. Russia also created problems for India. India had invested a lot of money in developing an air base in Ioni. I think it's one of the Central Asian republics where, I don't remember which stan is it, but there was Ioni air base where India had invested money and Russia put its foot down because it didn't want India to develop an air base there. So we have mixed relationships. Sometimes our interests converge, other times don't. At this point in time, because of the foolishness of United States, Russia has become de facto junior partner of China. That is of concern to us. Our trade relationship has become highly unilateral because of, import of discounted oil and gas from Russia after sanctions. And Russia has put its foot down that it does not want payment in rupees because they have plenty of rupees in their account and they cannot use it. Well, why you can't use it? Because you can't buy consumer goods from Europe anymore. Why don't you buy consumer goods from India using that rupee account that you have? But more and more, because of the hardening of attitude of European Union against Russia and democratic administration in the United States hell bent upon humiliating Russia and even plotting to dismember Russian Federation into several smaller republics, we do not see the sanctions going away. And in that process, Russia is invariably drawn into a junior partnership with China, the relationship with no end. That is of concern to us. So we'll have to, develop certain mechanisms by which we can engage Russia to our advantage.
Yes. So my second question to you, like you have said, Russia has become this junior partner to China. So definitely Russia is giving more importance to its ties with China than with India. Is it true?
It is true. Russia is in a state of helplessness.
Yeah.
It knows that it is being constricted by China had settled bordered with Russia or the Soviet Union in late 60s after a brief border war with Soviet Union. China is again making territorial claims on Russia in new maps. And that is of concern to Russia.
Yeah.
Russia is concerned that China will one day swallow Siberia. So we have to, invest economically in Siberia, ask Indian corporate sector to start factories in Russian Federation's Siberian region. There is this port city, Siberian port city of Vladivostok.
Yeah.
We need to start using that as a trading hub also. because when the northern sea routes become operational as the Arctic ice is melting, the northern sea route will become very, very lucrative, and there'll be opportunities not just for trading, but also for deep sea mining, also for tourism. So number of opportunities will crop up. So we need to, have some presence in this port city of Vladivostok and use that as a, entry point into Russian Federation Siberian region, do some investments there in manufacturing and other things so that we maintain presence there. But yes, China is taking advantage of the situation and is continuing to provide energy, outlet to Russia so that Russia can sell their energy, gas and oil to China. So China gets cheap energy from Russia, and China, of course, has a large foreign exchange reserve, and it has been buying defense equipment from Russia. Now that creates a problem if 45% of our defense equipment comes from Russia and China gets also the same equipment. It's a problem. So China has S-400 anti-missile shield batteries purchased from Russia. We also have purchased the same thing. So how effective that would be in protecting Indian airspace from Chinese ballistic missiles if China knows the technology of S-400? We have to think about questions like that. And I think we need to work with our diplomatic partners, including United States, including European Union, to understand how stupidly they are behaving. They are feeding the dragon.
Yeah.
They are feeding the carcass of a dying country, Russian Federation, economically dying country, to this dragon with voracious appetite. And they are not realizing how narrow-sighted they are. They don't realize that Russia at this point in time is not the Soviet Union. It's stalemated already in Ukraine, and they don't want to control whole of Ukraine. That could have been solved by negotiations rather than playing geopolitics. So both United States and European Union have culpability in creating this situation in which Russia is drawn into the arms of hegemonic China. And these two conglomerates, United States and European Union, do not have insight geopolitically as to what their actions are leading to. The more China becomes strong, the more it will threaten the Western interests. So Europe and United States strategic adversary number one is not Russia anymore, it is China, and that is what they don't realize. So maybe at government to government level and at track to level, at civil society level, Indian establishment needs to impress upon both European Union, and that does not include United Kingdom, because they have also taken very stringently anti-Russian position, to the oblivion that China poses the real danger. Historically, also in 1962 war, we had good relations with Soviet Union, but their response at that time was, "You are our friends, they are our brothers."
Yeah.
You don't want repetition of the same rhetoric in 2024, that Chinese are our brothers in arms and you are just friends. So we have to be wary about guarding our national interest and not just reassure Russia, but cultivate Russia for a future relationship in a different era. And yes, we need to increase our exports to Russia of consumer goods that they need, quality consumer that they need. They cannot get it from Europe. They should source it from India, rather than just some raw material.
Yeah, so that was my third question actually, because India has trade imbalances with Russia and China. So, do you have some idea that can be made up actually? How India should manage this?
Uh, well, our trade imbalance with China is a different thing. We won't discuss it today, but we have trade imbalance with Russia because we are buying discounted cheap energy from Russia, and that makes sense. But we are not able to export things to Russia. And as I said, that consumer goods can be something, fast moving consumer goods could be, you know, exported to Russia. The other area that is not being explored is human resources.
Yeah.
Russia is a shrinking population. Russian population, the young working population, is being sucked into Ukraine war. And Vladimir Putin just signed a decree that is going to increase the Russian armed forces by 170,000. So as more and more young men die or get named or get recruited into the Russian armed forces, there will not be enough workers in Russian factories. And India has always provided traditional labor or professionals or services. And I think that is where we need to start working. And the easiest way would be for Indian corporate sector to start some factories located in Russia. So that would be Indian capital invested in Russian cities, producing consumer goods locally using Indian labor.
All right.
And that would be a good model for the future to address the trade imbalance.
Because there is a very little people-to-people contact with Russia actually, despite having a long-standing relationship.
There was some people-to-people relationship with former Soviet Union, but that was with a niche population. That was the leftist NGOs and leftist organizations who, for them, like Moscow was like going to paradise or something like that.
Yeah.
But that was used by Soviet Communist Party to expand their sphere of influence by bribing and paying Indian intellectuals to toe the Soviet line. So that was the only thing. And I know at that point in time in Patrice Lumumba University, a lot of Indians used to go for medical school because they used to get free medical education. So a lot of Indian, leftist families send their children to Patrice Lumumba University. Actually, there was a window of opportunity when war with Ukraine started and Ukraine expelled or, mistreated Indian students. They had to come back to India. At that time, Russia had offered that they can continue their medical studies in Russia because they were being basically, given education either in Russian or Ukrainian language, which are almost similar kind of thing. So there was an opportunity for increasing our people-to-people contact. But basic thing is that because of the linguistic differences, people-to-people contacts are limited. But Indian people are very sturdy. Indian diaspora has been very sturdy. Wherever they've gone, they've learned the language. So I don't see that as a main culprit in preventing people-to-people relationship. It requires a new dimension of relationships in which we, in a very calculated manner, try to work on building people-to-people relationship while we are working an economic and industrial and mercantile relationship with Russia in a post-defense trade era. So we have to prepare ourselves to post-defense trade era that Russia will never be forever supplier of defense equipment for India because we are diversifying the sources, but also we are producing domestically. And there have been some issues about quality of Russia provided defense equipments, including MiG-21s, which were flying coffins.
Yeah, right.
And problems we had were with INS Vikramaditya, that most of the time it is, having one repair or the other. So there have been problems of quality, and quality standards have changed. So our relationship with Russia in a new era should depend upon bilateral commercial, mercantile, and economic relationship, of which energy trade would be one of the pillars, not defense trade. Russia is very strong on oil and natural gas, and we do need that. So that it will remain as the main Russian export to India, and we have to balance that import of energy from Russia against services, consumer goods, and maybe natural things like diamonds and polished diamonds and jewelry and things like that.
So thank you, Dr. Adityanjee. That was all the question I had related to Russia. And so far as we are discussing the India's foreign policy doctrine. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much indeed, Hari Prakashji. It's always a pleasure to come on your platform. Namaskar.
Thank you. Namaskar. Thank you, viewers. We'll be meeting again after a few days. Thank you.
Okay. All right. You're always welcome.
Yeah.